Welcome to the permaculture site here at St. Michael's College. This is one of 2 garden spaces that we maintain as the garden program. The third garden on campus is the teaching gardens, and that's in the center of campus. We have this site here, which is 1.75 acres, and then we have a 1/4 acre site down behind the jug handle in the cemetery, just down the road a little piece. This is our second growing season, and it's been in development for about 4 years. We have students who work here in the summer. This year we have 2 students from the work study program, and then a third student that we funded through our own garden program, because the site needs the student labor as well as attention. We have up here our orchard, and we've planted the orchard as a mixed orchard system. We've been able to do some land planning with a couple of other permaculture and edible forest garden businesses in the area. Vermont Edible Landscapes was the first, and we worked with them through my summer class, Food Systems and Sustainable Ag. We took the idea of having an orchard up on this hillside that was part of an original student project 5 or 6 years ago, and just planned it down to the detail level and implemented it last fall. We put the trees in as teenage trees, so they'll need 2 or 3 seasons before we can actually harvest them. And we've complemented the trees here with an edible hedge that runs along the road, and it has carbon fixing trees, bushes, nitrogen fixing bushes, different types of fruits and nuts that flower early in the season, so they serve as an early nectary to attract the pollinators to the orchard site before the orchard trees bloom. We need to come up and scout the trees for the young fruitlets that we actually need to pick off. So this is a peach tree, and it's actually put out a fair bit of fruit for a small young tree, which is fabulous. It's a good indication of its health of a tree in the next coming years. We have these 3 berry lanes here. This is a blueberry lane, a lane of red and black currants, and then a lane of something called a honeyberry or a haskap. All of the plants, as I just mentioned, are putting out their fruit that we'll harvest this year, so that the plant then goes on to put energy into establishing its root system before we worry about it fruiting. This oak tree we've intentionally left at the site, although we may have to prune it back a little bit for these plants, but it's a nod at the history of the site. So this site back in the late 80s and early 90s was the location of the Hunger Gardens, and it was run by Father Stankiewicz, one of our Edmundite priests, and he grew staple foods down here with help from some of the sports teams, mainly the hockey team. And he grew tomatoes and cucumbers and squash and potatoes, and everything that he grew down here he donated to the local area food shelves. We've maintained this site as a growing space for the last 10 or 15 years as a college. It was a tree nursery. We grew small trees up to older trees, and then we transplanted them on campus for quite some time. We've reclaimed the site as a garden production site in the last 5 or 6 years or so. As a garden program, our mission is to expose students to most current agricultural practices that are in line with sustainable, regenerative, and organic agriculture. They gain the skills of all of those types of agricultural practices, as well as the technical skills of taking care of the agriculture. Everything from weed whacking and tilling and lawn mowing to the technical pruning and trellising techniques for all the different plants. The next site that we have here is our native plant pollinator garden. It was as is the whole permaculture site, the design of this particular garden was with a student who graduated in 2016, Carla Clitheroe. She worked with Heather Lynch to design this pollinator garden, and we implemented it last growing season. And the plants are all native plants to Vermont, and it attracts tons of different pollinators. We've seen an increase in diversity at the site just in this growing season. This art piece here was an internship that an art student did with Brian Collier a couple of years ago, and her whole mission with her project was to use reclaimed and found materials to create garden-inspired art. And this particular piece is modeled after a beehive and painted yellow, and it actually does attract pollinators. This small setup here is it's going to be a sunflower house. can plant them in almost any shape, but they often come in circles. And we've left the middle open, and the sunflowers will grow up nice and tall. They'll be beautiful in the late summer and early fall. And there's an opening at the bottom there where young children and old children alike can come and crawl inside the house and experience the diversity of both the pollinators as well as the plants. So we don't have just a sunflower house, we have a mixed planting sunflower house. So we have corn, a couple of different other sunflowers, and then we'll put in, once the plants mature a little bit, we'll put in some zinnias and nasturtiums also. Just modeling consistently at different age groups and different points of access the benefits for ecological planting. We have a series of 16 raised beds in this area. In the past 2 years, we've used about half of them to host our Veterans Community Garden Initiative here on campus. It's a partnership with Hands. It's a nonprofit in the area as well as Vermont Community Garden Network, in partnership with the local VA down on Lake Street in Burlington and our own Student Veterans Association here on campus. So the garden here is the host for this program, and we work with local area veterans to encourage them to gain skills in agriculture to grow their own food. And the raised bed area makes it really accessible to the home gardener. The larger, taller raised beds allow folks with disabilities to also be gardening, and the area is pretty flat and physically accessible to those who might struggle with mobility issues in the larger part of the garden. This Friday, actually, we'll have a workshop here on campus for other faculty and staff members to kind of learn from these model gardens that we've put in place. So the site is just a living, breathing classroom for all learners on campus and in our surrounding community. We avoid as much as possible any use of organic certified chemicals at the site. We use a lot of physical barrier to remove pest pressure from our plants. So broccoli is in the brassica family, which is heavily plagued in this area by the cabbage moth. So covering the young plants early prevents the moth from accessing the plant. And then it also protects against something called the Swede midge, which will eat at the main floret of the broccoli and produce sort of a gnarly, not desirable fruit. The art here in the middle is from the same student who did the beehive project and just draws interest and activity to the center of the gardens. The students that are working this summer, we have 3 students, Kristyn McDowell, who is a rising junior, and then Lizzie McCarty and Ivy Luke, who are rising seniors. And yesterday they worked really hard at putting some of the plants in place in the thematic raised beds. Our hoop house we built a year ago in April of 2016, and we worked with a local consultant who puts up hoop houses, and he kind of led the project, but it was erected with student labor in the spring right before school was dismissed last year. And it was a wildly fun project and super satisfying because 2 days after putting the hoop house, the skin on the hoop house, we had the beds made in the hoop house, and we had plants, some early plants that we had purchased from Red Wagon in the ground, and 2 weeks later we were harvesting our first greens from the hoop house. It was really, really fabulous. The hoop house presence at the site allows our growing season to be a lot longer, a lot later in the fall and a lot earlier in the spring. This year we successfully overwintered carrots and greens and had an early harvest in February of spinach that we were able to sell in our self-serve farm stand model on campus early in the year. So this is our hoop house, and it's 72 feet long, and we've used 2/3 of it as planting and growing space and 1/3 of it as sort of our nursery space. Here you can see Ben and Will. You guys are both rising seniors, right? Yeah. Doing their summer research project. Ben was with us last summer, and this year Will has joined us. And they're working with Mark Lubkowitz in the biology department to look at different growing conditions and what that means for the plant's growth rate, and yield. And they're using plants that we commonly would use here in a hoop house, beans and tomatoes. and they've modeled their growing practices off of all of the ones that we use, as well as added their own mycorrhizal inoculum to the soil to see the effect of mycorrhizal on plant yield. It's a really, really fun project because they bounce back and forth between the hoop house and the lab. They learn practical agricultural skills from pruning and trellising tomatoes to plant companion planting systems, and deal with just some of the frustrations of agriculture and pair that up with lab skill work as well as critical thinking and writing about their research. You can plant anything in a hoop house. It's just what this is high impact and high nutrient dense space. So what can you get your most bang for your buck for? And tomatoes are certainly at the top of that list. Cukes and sweet potatoes come close behind. It's the hoop house creates a different climate in here and allows you to sort of change the growing conditions and how early you can put the plants in the ground. Hoop house is stagnant, you can't move it, so we have our own challenges here, particularly with soil nutrient, and we have to treat the soils a little differently and the crop rotations a little differently than we would in the field. Some of our tomatoes are getting a little stressed out and we're not sure why, so we'll do a little brainstorming later today. Some of them look beautiful. And we trellis them on these tomato wires, and it's a super fun skill for the students to learn how to do. There's some faculty and staff who have been down here and have learned the technique as well. And it's beautiful. So over here we have our sort of nursery, and we grow the majority of our plants from seed to seedling, and we transplant mature seedlings. It increases our success rate. If we put mature seedlings in the field, we know that they can grow. The plant, there's not a problem with the plant seed to start with. It could be our soils, but we've eliminated one variable. And the students also learn how to nurture and care for young seedlings in the hoop house, which is very different from in the field. We also sell our seedlings at our farm stand early in the growing season, and it gives us an early source of revenue at the farm stand before we have greens and fruit from the site to sell. We have our wash station here, which was designed by Erin Buckley. She graduated this year in 2017. She did an internship with me as part of her environmental science major last spring. And she designed the wash station as a final outcome of her research project around the new Food Safety Modernization Act and our GAP plan, or Good Agricultural Practice plan, that we have for this site. We have a 3-bin wash system, and it serves as cover for when weather is inclement, and many students have dreams of hosting a band show or two in the fall. There are some old cedars in this area, as well as a box elder, both of which were diseased, and we're taking down those older trees and burning them here at the site, and we'll use the ash to complement some of our nutrient needs in the field. Every Wednesday during the height of the growing season, we start, actually last Wednesday was our first salad day, we host a salad day. We harvest right from the site, and our students will do that here shortly. We harvest right on site, we process all of the food through the wash station, and we put on kind of a mini show here and encourage folks to come down and share food with their community, eat fresh locally grown food, and just be in peace that the site offers. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. We had a strong showing for our first salad days last week. We had 30 folks come down. We actually ran out of salad and had to pick and wash and prepare immediately, so that was pretty awesome. The students, as part of Salad Day, learn how to process jams and jellies and pestos, different types of spreads, and they learn to make butter from cream, and we complement the butter with some of the herbs from the herb and tea garden. This site here on the whole permaculture site is our annual vegetable garden. And we grow all of your normal vegetables. We have potatoes and tomatoes and eggplant and garlic and onions, flowers, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, beets, carrots, lettuces. Many things do beautifully, and we've struggled mainly with the lack of sun this year and a high woodchuck presence eating some of our early young plants. So we're learning what does well, and we're learning what techniques will keep the pests as well as the animals at bay. Even though this is our annual vegetable area, we also model interplanting techniques, ecological agriculture, as well as permaculture down here in the veggie area. This is asparagus that we planted last spring and are letting grow up 2 or 3 seasons before we harvest it. So it looks beautiful right now. It probably doesn't look anything like what you expect asparagus to look like. We let it grow up, and it's right now sequestering energy and nutrients into its crown for the following season. The students can compare growing conditions both in the field and in the hoop house, and they learn different maintenance and trellising techniques. Swiss chard and kale, you can harvest from the plant once or twice, and then it'll grow back for the following week. So the plants stay in the ground for a long time, sequestering carbon and building soil structure throughout the season. You'll see in this bed where the onions are located, there's 2 red traps, and it's part of an ongoing research project by one of our other biology professors, Scott Lewins, with his research partner up at UVM, Vic Izzo, and they're looking at the presence of leek moth in alliums throughout the state. So onions and garlic are alliums. We grow both here, and they're using our site as one of their many research sites throughout the state. It's a fabulous opportunity for students to be exposed to research at the institutional level in addition to our summer research projects. We have our early scapes popping up. So here's one that we could harvest. So your garlic scape is what would seed your garlic if you let it grow up for the following 2 years. This looks like a bunch of little seeds and will quickly look like a clove of garlic. We actually harvest these at this time in the year. We look for this sort of curlicue pigtail to come about, and we pull them off, and these are delicious, chopped up and used to complement stir fries. I make a lot of pesto out of garlic scapes, so normally when you make pesto you need a green, a nut, some oil, and a lot of garlic. With the garlic scape you have the garlic and the green all in one crop, and they smell delicious, and you just know the garlic is coming soon if you harvest the scapes. We have our students down here working. I'm curious what they're up to. It looks like maybe we nicked the irrigation with the mower, and that's part of the game. They're using their tools and their skills and their brains to figure out how to fix it. What's going on? Were you able to fix it? Yeah. You got it? You got it. Awesome. Look at you.
Is this an okay amount of?
Well, we can tweak it a little bit.
Is it coming up?
Yeah. Yep. And you can probably actually if you tighten that band, yep, that one.
This one?
Yep. It'll probably do more than the other one.
Okay.
And you can go tighter than you think, but you do want to be careful because you don't want to crack this. And this stuff is hard because it's so malleable, so
yeah.
You have to go a little tighter with it. But you're on the right track. You got all the right tools. You got it. You got it. Just another opportunity to learn something new. Fabulous. So thanks for touring the permaculture site with me today. And I hope that you all have a chance to come down and visit the site, whether it's through a class project or a research project, or you're interested in work study during the school year or for next growing season. There's lots of opportunities for students to come down here and interact with the site, as well as community members. It's really a place that brings together students, staff, faculty, as well as the larger community. And that's the role of food in our community, and it builds and increases food security and awareness and skills for the next generation of agriculture. Our farmers are getting older and they're looking to retire, and as a liberal studies college, contributing to the thinking and meaning of agriculture with this on-site, hands-on experiential learning opportunity is huge for both our students in their own skill development, but also the longevity of food and agriculture in our local community. So thanks for joining me today. I'm Kristyn Achilich, the Academic Program Coordinator for the Permaculture and Organic Garden program. Thank you.